Many animals can see more than 60 frames per second. Does this mean that they can perceive the flickering of LED and fluorescent lights? My pets usually have no interest in things on TV that would make them go nuts in real life. I always wondered if the TV is just a strobe light to them. Yes, but also, humans see significantly more than 60. Too many people claim 60 is the limit, but you can disprove that yourself by looking at a 60 FPS video, then a 120 FPS video on systems that can display it. There is a very noticeable difference. I can actually perceive the PWM employed to regulate the brightness of LED brake lights. If I stare straight into them, I don't see it, but when my eyes move, the flashing briefly records after images across my retina, and I see multiple images that correspond to the brake lights flashing at high frequency. I assume other people see this, but they are not dork enough to describe it. Everybody is talking about FPS, but that's more of a digital definition. Our eyes work much more like the old film cameras. What we are talking about is more akin to the ISO film speed rating. Basically how quickly an image can be exposed and perceived on our eye's retina. Our eyes have a persistence of vision which is great, but means that we can't see a flicker with a high frequency. That maximum frequency that we can perceive probably differs from person to person, and undoubtedly differs between us and animals or insects. I have no idea how the science people work out what other animals see though. Yes, just like how movies would look choppy. I'm not sure your statement is accurate. Eyes don't see in FPS, and I'm not sure how you can prove what the highest FPS animals can perceive on a digital screen. I have a friend who can't stand fluorescent lights because he can see them flicker. It's worth noting biological eyeballs do not see in frames. It's nothing like cameras or digital screens. All light that hits the eye is converted into signals the brain reads. The eye is notoriously full of garbage information and signals, but all light that hits it is processed. There can't be a flash that is so fast it's between the frame rate of an eyeball. That said, the brain is what actually processes those signals into images, and the brain is fucking weird. It focuses on what it deems necessary, which means tiny flashes so fast sort of get ignored by the brain, which is how we can watch TV and look at fluorescent lights, and whether we can subtly tell there's a flicker or not, it's not significant to us and we can consider the light just on. The brain can just mash it all together. Mashing things together is sort of the brain's specialty when it comes to vision. A lot of it gets dropped, ignored, combined, and streamlined to help us understand our surroundings. It doesn't capture frames, it absorbs everything and then parses it into ideas we can make sense of. Before I got LASIK, I could see fluorescent lights flicker too. I wasn't able to after the surgery. But you're right. I'm crazy, so I'm sure the creatures aren't far off. I'm sure. I can perceive the flicker of most LED lights, and it drives me crazy. Some small percentage of the human population can see it, and I'm one of the lucky ones. Not all LEDs do it, but many do. If they have an internal rectifying circuit, they don't flicker, but most inexpensive LEDs do. I used to really enjoy Christmas lights, but most LED Christmas lights look like they are frying and are actually painful for me to look at. If you want to know what it looks like, take your phone and make a slow-motion video of an LED light. Not stupid enough, but I look forward to the answers. Some people can even perceive the flicker of fluorescent lights. You know that you can see it more than 60 frames per second too, right? Fun fact, our brains don't process things in terms of frames per second. We stop being able to tell the difference in a monitor's frames after 200-240 FPS. But that's still from an artificial machine that creates tons of pictures every second. And that's not how the universe moves forward. Eyes don't operate at frames per second. Wait a second. You're telling me that humans aren't supposed to be able to see the flicker of a fluorescent light? So do I have some kind of issue with how I perceive light, because I absolutely can see the flicker of fluorescent lights, and even the LED lights I use in my room. My cats when I was a kid never really cared about the TV, but on computers now they'll watch and even swat at things on screen. I heard that with old CRTs they can see the gun redrawing and don't perceive it as motion like we do. Some people are sensitive to LED lights flickering too, and even if you don't implicitly notice it, it can give you headaches over time. There are flicker-free LED lights, and when I'm buying lights I usually look for those. Humans can see more than 60 frames per second too, lol. Also, if your pet seems constantly uncomfortable in a specific location, you may have an appliance emitting a high-pitched whine.